You know, I always considered myself a good husband. I loved my wife Lisa, took care of her, tried to be attentive and understanding. But recently a new person appeared in my life who turned everything upside down. And that person turned out to be my mother-in-law, Catherine. No, don't think anything like that. Catherine is a respected woman, a true professional in her field. She works for a large consulting company and helps people build successful careers. And when I complained to Lisa that I was stuck in my position, she immediately suggested turning to her mom for advice. "Michael, my mom is a guru of career growth," Lisa declared enthusiastically. "She pulled me out of a legal assistant role when I thought I'd be stuck there forever. Talk to her. I'm sure she'll help you too." I grunted skeptically. Yeah, right. A mother-in-law career consultant. Sounds like the beginning of a joke. But seeing Lisa's sincere faith in her mother's talents, I decided to give it a try. After all, what did I have to lose? Catherine greeted me surprisingly warmly. She sat me down in her office, treated me to coffee, and began asking about work. And you know what? Within half an hour, I was ready to worship this woman. She so easily figured out all my problems, rubbed my nose in my mistakes, and gave me a couple of helpful tips that I was amazed. I wish I had a mother-in-law like her 10 years ago. "Michael, you're a natural leader," Catherine summed up, "but you need to learn to sell yourself. Let's meet next week to discuss your resume and action plan. I'm confident that in a couple of months, you'll already be in a new position." I thanked her and left the office feeling inspired. It was hard to believe that this was my mother-in-law and not a fairy godmother. Lisa would be thrilled. Over the next few weeks, Catherine and I met regularly. We discussed my work tasks, made plans, and honed my self-presentation skills. I never thought career consultations could be so exciting. Catherine was easy and interesting to be with. She always found the right words and encouraged me when I doubted myself. Gradually, our conversations went beyond work. We discussed books, movies, and shared childhood memories. It turned out we had a lot in common, from a love of Italian cuisine to nostalgia for the good old 90s. I found myself increasingly looking forward to our meetings, and it wasn't just about career prospects. One evening, after a particularly productive conversation, I suddenly caught myself with a strange feeling. Watching Catherine enthusiastically talk about her first job, I felt attraction to her? Affection? Damn, I didn't know what it was myself. I just wanted to touch her hand at one point, tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, look into her eyes a little longer than I should. "Okay, stop, buddy." I mentally pulled myself together. "Have you completely lost your mind? That's your wife's mother. Your mother-in-law, for crying out loud. You found someone to fall for, you idiot." But oddly enough, it didn't help. The more I forbade myself to think about Catherine, the stronger the attraction became. I started catching myself admiring her smile, seeking eye contact, and coming up with reasons to see her more often. And I was getting more and more confused about my own feelings. "Michael, buddy, you're in trouble," I sighed, looking at myself in the mirror in the mornings. "You've done it now. Wasn't a beautiful wife enough for you, so you set your sights on your mother-in-law too. Come to your senses, you moron, before you do something stupid." But apparently my inner voice was too quiet, because the further it went, the harder it was for me to restrain my impulses. Every meeting with Catherine turned into torture. I wanted to either kiss her or run away as far as possible, and I had no idea how to deal with it. Catherine seemed to notice nothing, or pretended not to notice. She was still friendly, welcoming, and ready to help with advice, but sometimes it seemed to me that there was more than just warmth in her gaze. Some special sparkle, a hint of flirtation, a slight provocation. One day we stayed late discussing my possible promotion. Catherine was sitting so close that I could smell her perfume and feel the warmth of her body. At one point, our hands accidentally touched, and it was like an electric shock. I froze, afraid to move, and Catherine suddenly smiled and covered my hand with hers. "Michael, you're so tense," she purred, looking into my eyes. "Relax. You'll do great. I believe in you." Her words and touch affected me like a good dose of whiskey. My head spun, my throat went dry, and a pleasant warmth spread through my chest. A little more and I definitely would have done something stupid. Fortunately, at that moment the phone rang, and Catherine, apologizing, left the room. I sat there trying to calm my heartbeat and mentally cursing myself for my weakness. What an idiot, huh? Getting so carried away by a simple touch, like a little schoolboy. Although, on the other hand, isn't Catherine crossing boundaries? Why the hell is she flirting with me? Or is it just my imagination? At our next meeting, Catherine was pointedly polite and professional. No ambiguous looks, accidental touches, or playful smiles. She kept her distance, and for some reason it was even worse. I understood that it was right, but at the same time I was angry and offended, like a child who had his favorite toy taken away. "God, Michael, you've completely lost it," my inner voice groaned. "You suffer when she's around, then you get mad when she keeps her distance. There's no pleasing you. Maybe that's enough already? Forget about these meetings, hire a normal career consultant, and get your mother-in-law out of your head." If only it were that simple. But alas, I was getting in deeper every day. And I realized that decisive action was needed. I had to put an end to this story before it was too late. Otherwise, sooner or later, I'd snap and do something I'd definitely regret later. And that moment came. One evening, Catherine and I lingered in a cafe, discussing my upcoming interview. I had practically received a promotion offer and was terribly nervous, afraid to ruin everything. Catherine, as always, was on top of her game, encouraging, giving advice, going over possible questions. "Michael, you'll do fine," she smiled, looking at me over a glass of wine. "You're a smart, charismatic, confident man. They'll be happy to get an employee like you." Her words and gaze turned everything inside me upside down. My heart was pounding like crazy, my palms were sweaty, and only one thought was spinning in my head. Now or never. And to hell with the consequences, to hell with the fact that she was my wife's mother. I had to do this or I'd simply explode. Leaning towards Catherine, I looked into her eyes and quietly said, "Thank you. I don't know what I would do without you. You're an amazing woman." And then, without giving her a chance to recover, I pulled her to me and kissed her. It was like an electric shock. A shiver ran through my body, my ears started ringing, and reality faded away. For a moment, it seemed to me that Catherine was responding to the kiss, but the next second she pushed me away with force and jumped to her feet. "Michael, have you lost your mind?" she exhaled, looking at me with wide eyes. How could you?" I sat there, red with shame and anger at myself. What an idiot! And what do I do now? How do I justify this? Say I mistook her for the waitress? "Catherine, I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me," I mumbled, not daring to look at her. "Please, let's forget about this, and I beg you, don't tell Lisa anything. I'll deal with it myself." Catherine was silent, drilling me with her gaze. Then she sighed heavily and shook her head. "Fine, consider it never happened. But this is the first and last time, Michael. No more meetings and conversations. Do you understand me?" Yes, of course," I exhaled with relief. "Thank you, and sorry again." She didn't answer. She just turned around and walked out of the cafe, leaving me alone with my shame. And I sat there, banging my forehead on the tabletop and mentally calling myself names. What a moron, huh? And why did I do that? Chasing a pie in the sky? And now I've lost the bird in my hand, too. Well done, Michael. Keep it up. The next few days, I walked around as if in a fog. I couldn't focus on anything. Everything was falling out of my hands. Even Lisa noticed that something was wrong with me, but I blamed it on the stress before the interview. I couldn't admit that I had kissed her mother, could I? The worst part was that I missed Catherine. Despite the shame and awkwardness, I desperately wanted to see her again, to hear her voice, to feel her touch. What's wrong with me? Have I really managed to fall in love with my own mother-in-law? Okay, Michael, stop suffering from this bullshit. I pulled myself together. You screwed up big time, fact, but that's no reason to fall apart and turn into a sappy romantic. Get a grip, you wimp. You have a wife, a career, and a bunch of things to do in general. No need to cry into your fist. And I pulled myself together, or at least I tried. I started spending more time with Lisa, doubled my efforts at work, and even signed up for a gym. Anything to avoid thinking about Catherine and that ill-fated kiss. But damn it was so hard. Family dinners were especially tough. Catherine behaved impeccably, smiling, joking, discussing the latest news. She didn't hint at what had happened with a word or a look, and I sat on pins and needles, afraid to say or do something wrong, and I constantly caught myself staring at her like a complete idiot. "Michael, is everything okay?" Lisa asked sympathetically after another dinner. "You've been kind of weird lately. Are you still worried about work?" "Huh? Oh yeah, right," I caught myself. "Work, damn it, I just can't relax. But don't worry, honey, I'll handle it." Lisa smiled and pecked me on the cheek, and I felt like the last bastard. God, how can I look her in the eyes after everything I've done? She trusts me, loves me, and oh, Michael, you've done it now. But the worst part was that deep down I understood. My feelings for Catherine hadn't gone anywhere. Yes, I screwed up. Yes, I acted like the last asshole. But I still wanted her, missed her, dreamed about her, and it was driving me crazy. "Okay, buddy, it's time to cut this shit out," I scolded myself for the umpteenth time. "You've already done enough stupid things. Stop suffering from this nonsense and ruining everyone's life. Be a man, get a grip, and forget about Catherine once and for all. Otherwise, you'll definitely regret it." Easy to say. Forget. If only it were that simple. But I didn't have much of a choice. Either come to terms with it and move on, or continue to wallow in self-pity and slowly go crazy. And I'm not crazy enough yet to choose the latter. Life slowly returned to its usual routine. Work, home, occasional meetings with friends. I tried my best to pretend that everything was fine, although a storm of emotions still raged inside me. I carefully avoided Catherine, keeping our communication to a minimum, and it seemed she was also not against staying away. Lisa, of course, noticed my condition but blamed it all on stress and nerves. She even suggested going to a family psychologist, saying it might help. I refused, saying I would handle it myself. I couldn't admit that my main stress was my attraction to her mother, could I? And then what I had feared and simultaneously desired happened. Catherine and I were left alone. Lisa and her father had gone away on business, and we volunteered to look after the house. The first half hour was fine. We sat in different rooms, minding our own business. But then, for some reason, Catherine came into the kitchen where I was making dinner. "Michael, we need to talk," she said seriously, looking me in the eye. "About what happened." Everything inside me dropped. Was she going to tell Lisa after all? Or worse, demand that I confess everything myself? The thought made me break out in a cold sweat. "Catherine, listen," I began, frantically searching for words. "I know I screwed up. I know I did a horrible thing, and I'm very, very sorry. Please, let's just forget about it, okay? I promise, no more stupidity. Michael," she interrupted, moving closer, "it's not about that, or rather not just about that. Damn, this is so hard." She fell silent, her eyes downcast, and I suddenly felt my heart start pounding at a crazy speed. Could it be? Could she be too? "Catherine," I breathed, taking a step toward her. "Please tell me that you—" I didn't have time to finish. At that moment, the front door slammed, and Lisa's cheerful voice rang out, "Mom, Michael, we're back! Did you miss us?" We jumped apart, as if scalded. A strange expression flashed across Catherine's face for a moment, disappointment or relief. Then she smiled and went to meet her daughter, throwing back at me as she walked. "Thanks for keeping an eye on dinner, Michael. You're a real helper." And that was it. The moment was lost, and I was left standing in the middle of the kitchen, trying to understand what had just happened. Did I imagine it, or is there really something between us? Damn, what's wrong with me? I've completely lost my mind over this whole thing. Okay, Michael, that's enough. Stop worrying about this nonsense and building conspiracy theories. You have everything you could ever dream of. A loving wife, a good job, a roof over your head. There's no need to look for trouble and ruin your relationships with loved ones. After all, it happens to everyone, right? You got confused, fell for the flirtation, imagined too much. It can happen to anyone. The main thing is to stop in time and learn from it. And I did. From now on, no more straying, especially with my own mother-in-law. I'll be an exemplary husband and son-in-law. After all, it's worth it. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.